Paltrocast. Starting it off, thank you all for speaking with me. And we'll throw to Aimee first because she was here early. Aimee, thank you for taking the time. For you, what was the highlight in being part of this production with Tom and Patrick?
Oh, wow, that's such a good question. I would say that the highlight of being part of the production was honestly just like building a family with everybody. We lived on set together for a month and a half, and we just got to know each other exceptionally well. So to be able to build a community like that was definitely a big highlight.
Sure. Patrick, throwing it to you here. We as fans first learned about the film in 2024. When did you actually finish the film that is finally getting its theatrical release here in the States in the next week or so?
Yeah, well, things happened quite quickly. I mean, from the time I was asked to direct this film and then write a screenplay, it took like within 2 months I'd written the screenplay. Within 3 months after that, we were on set, and then about 8 months later, we had shot and we were doing post-production. So it went quite quickly. Yeah, it was quite a quick turnaround.
Tom, thank you for being patient and listening to other people speak. So for you, first, the same question I asked Aimee, was there a personal highlight for you in being part of Lost Horizon?
Look, I think it's, I've worked with Patrick before, and I've done a great deal of different things, a lot of action films and, these kind of dramas, but obviously playing, a leading role in something like this was a great responsibility. And it was really, I guess it was a lot of fun. It was for a sort of independent South African produced film. It was quite a big kind of endeavor because we had a lot of high budget kind of movie stuff with the helicopters. The locations were fantastic, and so it was. Yeah, I'm waffling. It was fun.
Well, a follow-up question, which I also want to ask Aimee. Tom, you have a lot of different job titles and roles that you found success in over the years. In other words, I can't just go like, oh, that actor Tom, because you've done a lot of things and the voiceover work, etc., has been very successful for you. Do you have an easy way of describing what you do for a living at this point, Tom, given the success with all the different titles?
Absolutely not. I think I've said I'm a security guard. I'd like to be an estate agent. Sorry, everyone. That's look. I think I did a great deal. I was in a West End musical for a couple of years, and
yeah,
and I came to
Blood Brothers.
Yeah, did a great deal of film work, and then I've done a lot of theatre as well. But I think I've kind of moved towards doing more film and action certainly in the last 15 years, and obviously this is a great culmination of that.
Same question at you, Aimee, because the modeling success beyond the acting. How do we define what it is that you do? Or is it simply, hey, I'm an actress that also does other stuff?
If I'm completely honest with you, I like to just say that I'm a jack of all trades. There's not something that I don't do. I've had the privilege of really working, especially this year, with some really big names and attending events like with Paris Hilton through Karl Lagerfeld and attending different fashion weeks all around the world. And recently I was actually just in Vietnam and I won a Miss Super Talent of the World title, which was so overwhelming. So I suppose in so many ways, I always say to people around me, there's never one thing that you are as a person. We are so multidimensional as human beings. And so to put yourself in a box, I would just say it's just fun to say that I'm able to do everything. And like, there's not a dream that's unattainable and that I can't achieve. So yeah, it never gets easier to describe that one particular thing that you do, but it's always fun to say that you can do more.
Cool. Well, Patrick, not to leave you out here, I mean, writer and director on this particular project and all that. Was the goal all along to be doing that? Because let's face it, you don't start out directing on your first project.
Yeah, I mean, directed quite a few movies, DOP'd a lot of films, written, edited. I've been a child of filmmaking since I was 6 years old, so I was very lucky to be sort of growing up in the circus, as they say. But I've enjoyed working with, the highlights have always been working with great talent, seeing these characters come to life through their delivery, and just very blessed to make these kind of movies. So yeah, I've enjoyed every minute of it.
So as it was called out before, dealing with the problems of being an indie, yet being very aspirational people and having helicopters and action and all that. What was the biggest challenge for you with Lost Horizon?
Away movies are always difficult. They're a lot harder than films done, where you get to go home every day, see your family and your friends. I think the hardest part of Lost Horizon, believe it or not, was being 40 days without seeing your family. The movie itself was a walk in the park. Shooting it wasn't hard. We stayed on target, on budget. We were always on track. There were some obstacles that came along during the process of filmmaking, and the actors know what I'm referring to. But we overcame them as a unit, as a group, and we've got a product to show for it. So I'm very grateful that we were able to get over those obstacles.
Well, a follow-up that I have for you, which I also want to hear what Tom and Aimee have to say about it, is the U.S. film industry. It used to be its own number one thing in its own mind. In other words, Hollywood was Hollywood. And these days I'm finding a lot of films that they say, the setting is in the US, it's actually filmed overseas. And there was a recent film where I did a junket that takes place in California, but it was really South Africa. And I think that's a sign to kind of say a lot more of the film industry is happening elsewhere. What I'm curious about is when you started realizing that you could be a successful director in South Africa, that you didn't have to be in New York or LA to really have that big international career.
Well, the advantages are huge here. I mean, first of all, the exchange rate is in our favor, So if you want to do a movie from the US and you only have $1 million, $1 million can go a long way in South Africa. We've got locations, we've got the talented crew and the cast, and there's no real need to get on a plane and go shoot in an expensive city like Los Angeles, where getting film permits is a mission. Everything's expensive. Finding parking is expensive. Something as simple and as trivial as parking, for example. You don't really have those kind of issues here in South Africa. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if we just keep producing content that people want to see, it doesn't matter where you make it, as long as you make content that people want to see. That's all that matters.
Tom, calling out to the theater success or theatrical success you had with West End and all that, but also in South Africa has been a lot of the focal point of your career. When did you realize that South Africa could be your base for your entertainment career?
I don't think it was so much a base for my career-wise. It was I just left the West End, and I literally came over here to visit. I had family over here, and I did a very successful comedy play, and then all of a sudden did just the next 10 years a huge amount of voice work, and that has been a huge part of my career here. And then you make a life for yourself. The film stuff was always exciting because there is, just to sort of segue back into the Lost Horizon sort of thing. A lot of internationals shoot in South Africa. So I can say as a British South African actor, I got a lot of chance at sort of building up that CV. But the nice thing about Patrick, just gonna be nice to the director, have to. He actually, as a sort of South African director, independent filmmaker, is, to the best of my knowledge, the only one making these kind of genre of films at this level, and getting them sold. I'll probably get murdered by all the other directors in South Africa now, but it's very impressive what he's doing by creating these kind of films at this level and getting them sold overseas. And I think I hope more of that starts to happen here.
Same question at you, Aimee, before I ask the follow-up. For you, and you mentioned the title that you recently won, I believe, in Vietnam, but the competition based out there. But when did you realize that you could have a thriving entertainment, multifaceted career being based in South Africa versus saying, I have to go to LA or London?
So honestly, I would say South Africa has an exceptionally fast-growing market. There's so much opportunity here, and people are working exceptionally hard to be able to put on the map because we haven't had that in the past. So because internationals are coming here, the exchange rate is working, like Patrick previously mentioned, it just makes so much sense for people to come film here and to create the opportunities for our locals and for our internationals. South Africa isn't a place necessarily where it's just for this specific demographic or for this specific market. It's so diverse. So there's so much opportunity. And if I'm honest with you, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago that I just was like, okay, cool. If there's a place to be and that I would love to live that's close to my family, close to my friends, with a lot of opportunity, it is South Africa. There is obviously ways to move around and travel the world and meet new people. But at the end of the day, after a lot of traveling that I've done this year, I was away for 4 months. I came back home and I was like, this is the place to be. I can network and connect to people here and grow my network in South Africa as well and supply things. It just makes so much more sense. South Africa is so diverse and growing.
So again, Lost Horizons, the new movie, getting its theatrical run finally this month here in the States. But Aimee, are we allowed to know which project for you is next after Lost Horizon, or is it all Lost Horizon forever and ever and ever?
There is some things currently in the making that I unfortunately cannot disclose, but there will definitely be things in the future. Lost Horizon was definitely a huge turning point in my career and a huge growth spot. So absolutely, like, Lost Horizon will forever and ever and ever have a soft place in my heart. I think, yeah, it was a big turning point in my career and with all the people that I got to meet.
Got it. Same question at you, Tom. Are we allowed to know what's next, or hey, just follow you on Instagram and that's it, and keep talking about Lost Horizon?
No, I don't think so. I don't really. I mean, I haven't anything. I'm in Cape Town now, meeting an agent, and I think there's a lot of again, a lot of international stuff that films down here. So got nothing in the pipeline. Just chatting with an agent and seeing the projects coming through down here currently.
Just 10 audio based projects that we'll be hearing your voice on, correct?
I was successful, and I did a huge amount of voice work and awards around that, blah blah blah. And I do audiobooks internationally, which is kind of cool. But yeah, there's nothing. I don't get excited about that. That's just work.
Practical response there. And Patrick, I'll throw the same thing at you, because your IMDb shows like 8 or 9 or 10 upcoming different projects, but who knows what we're allowed to know or what actually gets finished. Are we allowed to know what's coming next, or Lost Horizon, blah blah blah, that's the best thing you ever did and that's the last thing you ever did?
Now, we got some big plans. We've got a couple of action franchises we're releasing. So probably in March, April, we're looking at releasing at Comic-Con the first debut of 0 Hour, which is a lot like a Die Hard franchise. And this year, well, in 2026, we intend to shoot the sequel to that. And then we've got another action franchise called Kill Site. The first one also releases probably November next year. And that's a lot like Mission Impossible meets John Wick. So yeah, a lot of action films coming out from our side. We also just shot a film recently called The Call Out, which was a thriller. It's like a horror thriller. That one will probably also be finished by next year. So expect at least 3 new films from our side next year.
And what's the best way to track all that online when it's time to know?
We will be posting on IMDb, and we'll also, we'll use our PR company and try to get reach out to you, Darren. Obviously, we'll always keep you in the loop, and
Sure.
love for you to review our movies.
But your Instagram, is that the best way to find out?
I don't really use social media much. I'm too busy for social media. That's
too busy actually creating and actually doing the work that actually happens.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I might hire someone and let them just sort of keep posting stuff on there, and that might be the way to do it. Yeah.
Let the lackeys do it. Tom, is there a social media site or a website to plug for you? And it's fine if the answer is no.
No, I'm not really a big fan of social media. It's just too many weirdos, like my family posting rude stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it's really for me. Is that the wrong thing to say? I think it's just project per project, like this movie coming out. Obviously, I'm engaged with interviews and chats, and if a project happens, I follow that drive. But me personally, it's not that interesting.
Heard. If I didn't have to promote my content, I would probably be off the social media. Aimee, the last word. Is it at Aimee_Botes at Instagram, or am I wrong on that one?
So close. I'm feeling a bit left out with you guys hating social media so much. My Instagram is Aimz_Botes, and I often post about the new adverts that I've been in and the new content that I'm doing and all the new projects that I'm in. IMDb, I do constantly update as well. And then Facebook, I do have Aimee, that is with a little heart. So cliche. And then on TikTok, it's just Aimee's Night Out. Yeah.
Well, hey, congrats again to you all on seeing this one through, and looking forward to these future projects that have been mentioned in passing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Paltrow.